Leading Britain's conversation, LBC, tonight with Andrew Marr.
6:45. End of an era. Bosses are to be banned from using non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs, to shut people up who've worked for them but who've suffered harassment or discrimination. An amendment to the Employment Rights Bill in the Commons now prohibits legally enforceable NDAs to conceal bad behaviour in the workplace. This isn't just about famous Me Too cases and glamorous people, but it's about everyday discrimination all around Britain. Some say it intrudes too much into daily working life, but how do you ever change attitudes if you don't? Anyway, I'm joined now by the former Transport Secretary, Labour MP, Louise Haigh, and by Zelda Perkins, who was the former PA to Harvey Weinstein and ran the group Can't Buy My Silence. Her story began right at the beginning of the Me Too movement, but all these years later, how significant did she think this day was in particular?
Today is huge. And if the government actually can stand by its intentions with this amendment, the UK will be leading globally, which is extraordinary considering, I've been fighting for 7 years and the steps have been, 1 forward, 3 back, 1 forward, 3 back. And I'm still actually slightly in shock and disbelief because this is such an ambitious amendment that will protect across the board in a way that I could never imagine would happen.
A very, very big congratulations to you. Just remind people listening why you've been fighting all this time. You were PA to Harvey Weinstein.
Yes, I was PA to Harvey Weinstein. And obviously in 2017, when allegations started coming out, I decided to break an NDA that I had, a particularly egregious NDA, which I had had with Weinstein, who had assaulted my assistant. And I felt that it was incredibly important that people understood that they were slightly being distracted by the issue of one man's appalling behaviour, and that the real key to this was the system, and this is the abuse of the system, that those in power and those with money have the ability to buy justice, to buy silence, to abuse with total impunity, and this is protected by the law and protected by, upstanding law providers.
So as you started on this journey, you became aware of more and more cases of people being horribly abused or bullied or whatever, and this being kept secret from the public because of the NDAs.
Yes, and because of the nature of NDAs, there really wasn't any light shone on this, and it's been shocking, the revelations that have come forward. And I mean, I'm still approached by people every day. So
sorry, do people come to you saying, I did sign an NDA, but what I really want to tell you, Zelda, is what happened to me, kind of thing?
It's more about the process of signing an NDA and then the damage, the catastrophic damage that having your sort of basic human right of your voice taken away, which a lot of people don't understand or realise the impact that's going to have when they sign an agreement. I think the other important thing to remember is that when you look at a case like mine, which obviously piques interest in the public because it's a celebrity, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The abuse of power is whether you work at McDonald's, whether wherever you work. And actually, you're more vulnerable if you're a low-paid worker. You have less access to justice. And your settlements are generally tiny. We're talking about hundreds of pounds and maybe a few £1,000s at most. They're not the huge sums that, people at the other end get.
And Louise, I guess millions of people have signed these non-disclosure agreements, and they sign in optimism. It's the beginning of a new job, it's the beginning of something great, and they look back very often in anger and disbelief.
Absolutely, and that point that Zelda just made around the high-profile cases being the ones that most people understand, I think most people would assume that they are constrained to just a few very rare cases in the media or the entertainment industry, when in fact in hospitality and retail they are absolutely widespread. And research led by Zelda's organisation has shown that in 100% of hospitality settlements they have abused confidentiality clauses or NDAs, and these are workers that are very, very vulnerable. So whether you've been sexually assaulted by your boss at work or maybe by a customer and then receive a settlement of hundreds of pounds, we've seen cases where women are then unable to even speak to medical professionals, let alone their friends and family, and therefore are completely unable to recover from that trauma. I broke an NDA a few months ago in Parliament on behalf of a journalist at ITN who'd been the victim of disability discrimination. Because of his NDA, he's unable to explain to any future employer why he left his previous workplace. And so he's not been able to go back to work again. He lost his home. The settlement he received barely covered his legal costs. It destroys lives, and it also allows organisations to turn a blind eye to their wrongdoing, whether it be at a systemic level, whether it be individuals that are being allowed to get away with it throughout the organisation. So today's announcement is a huge step in the right direction for victims and survivors, but also for workplace and organisational culture and transparency.
And no question, but this amendment will go through, and it will become law.
So it's been tabled last night in the House of Lords. We had a lot of support in the House of Lords from all parties, so I don't see any problem at all with it getting through the House of Lords, and then the bill will receive royal assent in September. There's then a bit of a question, and Zelda and I are still very aware that there's a bit of fight over the detail to come over some certain points in the law, but today is a huge step forward, and credit to Zelda and all the countless other survivors and victims that have spoken truth to power and risked a huge amount of personal consequence in breaking their NDAs and bringing this issue to light.
A question really to both of you. Some people listening will think NDA, non-disclosure agreement, it all sounds pretty technical, but do you both believe this is actually going to change behaviour in hundreds, perhaps thousands of workplaces all around the country forever?
Absolutely, and I think actually this is a really good point. So I think a lot of businesses will be quite alarmed by this initially, and I think what we've got fantastic data that we've collected from America particularly, where non-disclosure agreements or confidentiality clauses around sexual harassment have been banned in over 27 states. And a lot of companies and lawyers think that if you take away that confidentiality, people won't settle. And the figures are showing this, that actually settlement has gone up by nearly 10%. And that shows that actually the chilling factor was the confidentiality. And the other point is for businesses is that taking away this mechanism will actually modify people's behaviour at root, rather than people believing that they can behave in certain ways and get away with it because there is a mechanism to hide behind.
That's a really, really important point, a very, very